The Twilight of the Bourgeoisie subject, decoding Nolan's The Odyssey through geopolitics, scripture, and critical theory by Jacques Rouen and Pill Eater. Introduction. Myth as the mirror of Western decay. When a civilization runs out of future, it retreats into myth. Christopher Nolan's cinematic adaptation of the Odyssey arrives not as a heroic spectacle, but as a hilarious tragicomic autopsy of the modern Western male. Strip away the sea monsters and the IMAX-rendered whirlpools, and what remains is a grand allegorical thesis on geopolitical exhaustion, the failure of technocratic arrogance, and the spiritual bankruptcy of late-stage capitalism. Before the first frame even rolls, the bureaucratic mind will choke on its own spreadsheets over this. The court historians, the court historians and the empirical pedants will inevitably run out with their clipboards, screaming that treating pop culture archetypes and biblical typology as serious history lacks primary source documentation. They will demand economic ledgers to validate a movie critique, committing the ultimate category error. Judging a high octane satirical autopsy of technocracy by the rules of double entry bookkeeping. They miss the entire cosmic joke because their paychecks and tenure depend on missing it. To drive the core thesis home, Nolan cast Matt Damon, Hollywood's indisputable golden boy mascot of Western middle management competence or incompetence. For 30 years, cinema has spent billions of fictional taxpayer dollars rescuing Matt Damon from the hedgerows of Normandy in Saving Private Ryan to an isolated ice planet in Interstellar to farming potatoes in his own feces on Mars in The Martian. South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone immortalized him in Team America, World Police as a puppet capable of uttering only his own name with a blank eyed, slack jawed enthusiasm. Matt Damon! A joke so sharp, even Rab himself and the CKY crew couldn't have drafted a better parody of Hollywood's ultimate golden boy. In The Odyssey, Nolan weaponizes this exact pop culture caricature of Damon as a mildly impaired, over promoted, everyday guy to mock the ultimate archetype of the average Western man. A guy who genuinely believes he can, quote unquote, science his way out or science the shit out of a civilizational collapse, completely oblivious to the fact that he built the trap he's currently dying in. The reactionary brain rot screeching over Nolan's casting choices completely misses the joke, failing to see how the film operates as a dual barreled reality check. Nolan isn't shoehorning modern progressive hand wringing into the Bronze Age. He's slapping the viewer in the face, if you know what I mean, with the reality that the quote unquote brown flood of mass migration and racial mixing isn't some newfangled conspiracy. The exact same ancient churn that's been grinding down empire since the Mediterranean was a giant, chaotic melting pot. Meanwhile, dropping Elliot Page into the role of Eumaeus, the swineherd, while internet chatter went wild with rumors that Page was playing Achilles, is the punchline of the century. The absurdity of internet chumps hyperventilating over rumors of Page as history's greatest rageaholic warrior completely ignores the roles of the sexes have been tossed into a blender across many centuries. Having Page play the humble swineherd while the culture war freaked out over Achilles is the ultimate Baphomet play, a deliberate occult alchemy where male and female swap polarity, turning modern gender anxieties into a mirror that completely breaks the brains of chumps who can't see the cosmic joke right in front of them. You see this exact same brain rot playing across every digital platform today. On Instagram, OnlyFan Marxist girls and their simps play act as anti-capitalists while operating as micro vendors for the digital pimp platforms. On Substack, pseudo-intellectual right-wingers pretend to be punk rock dissidents while packaging a degenerate, childless lifestyle underneath talking points spoon-fed by political operatives writing White House memos at best. And on X, Silicon Valley tech bros post self-important essays about being quote-unquote burdened by their own striver grind set, a Zoomer Facebook where VCs like Gary Tan and Sam Altman smile while flushing out generations of workers in favor of cheaper, more compliant labor pools. Everyone is performatively picking a side on the digital carousel, completely oblivious to the fact that they are just worker bees polishing the engine that consumes them. Underneath this Greco-Roman facade lies an administrative illusion, a deeper administrative illusion, in fact. History presents us with a series of binary feuds: Canaan versus Japheth, Rome versus Carthage, Jacob versus Esau, or the Judean temple networks versus the Roman Imperium. Scripture frames this in Genesis 9:25 through 27. Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants, shall be unto his brethren. God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem. The dominant geopolitical narrative tells us that Japheth built fixed borders and civic infrastructure. Japheth is Rome, by the way. While Canaan, or the Jews perhaps, operated a spirit of fluid trade, financial subversion, also the Phoenicians as well, and displacement. When Rome raised Carthage in 146 BC, we are told that land power defeated maritime capital, only for capital to swap siege engines for speculative finance and open air population management. Yet treat these historical antagonisms as absolute oppositions misses the true nature of the apparatus. The apparent death matches of Canaan versus Japheth, Rome versus Jerusalem, very key one, by the way, Jacob versus Esau, are not irreconcilable enemies fighting for total annihilation. They function as the two intertwined serpents of the caduceus, spiraling around a central rod of managed illusion. They are complementary poles in a grand dialectical engine. One side provides the rigid structural container, the state, law, and the military industrial complex, while the other provides a dynamic engine of disruption, financialization, migration, liquidity, and crisis management. They work in tandem to keep the wheels of pseudo progress turning, creating the illusion of history moving forward through conflict. This perpetual motion machine of managed dialectics serves as an elaborate smokescreen deployed by the global elites. By keeping populations fixated on these civilizational, tribal, and online culture war polarities, the ruling class conceals the underlying engine driving the entire process, the cold material mechanics of resource extraction, capital accumulation, and structural dominance, the ultimate reality of dialectical materialism. Historically, whether looking at institutional mercantile networks or imperial apparatuses, the recurring cycle of border disruption and institutional conflict systematically dismantles local sovereignty and breaks organic ties. Odysseus's journey is simply the modern manifestation of this continuous loop. The tragicomic saga of the suburban Western manager who loses his own home to financial predators and engineered population flows while obsessing over quarterly metrics, artificial diversity quotas, and the digital clout, entirely blind to the fact that the civilizational drama he watches on a screen is a carefully choreographed puppet show designed to keep him from looking at the material machinery consuming him. Civilizational exhaustion and the digital carousel. Matt Damon is the mascot for an entire culture hiding from reality behind curated online poses. Look across the social media landscape and you see the same theater everywhere. On Instagram, OnlyFans Marxist girls and their simps, LARP as leftists while funneling money straight back into the digital pimp platform. On Substack, pseudo-intellectual fake punk right-wingers drop racy takes on heroin chic lifestyle as based, taking direct cues from Trump administration memos while raising 0 kids and living in total hedonism. I won't name names. Meanwhile, on X, Silicon Valley tech bros post cringe-inducing manifestos about how quote-unquote burdened they are by their own grind set, desperate to prove how crack they are. It's hipster irony masking pure corporate sycophancy. Zoomer Facebook watched over by millennial venture capitalists like Gary Tan and Sam Altman, who nod approvingly at the worker bees while flushing out the previous generation of tech workers to churn through the cheap foreign labor, and corporate diversity targets. It's all the exact same mechanism, hyper-curated, performative identity games designed to give people a sense of edge, while the actual material infrastructure beneath their feet is strip mined and thrown down the drain.